Keep It Basement podcast on the road. Tom Zappia, Mike Sweeney, Alex Nicholas, coming at you from NJ Skateshop, New Brunswick, New Jersey, where I've been many of times, and we are joined by a New Jersey faithful, Sayreville, New Jersey, Chris Nieratko of, everything.
Dude, I got
great.
my questions
You're doing
on
great.
here.
Yes. It's going to be a good show.
Hey, I need a new phone case. I don't know, every Big Brother, Vice, Jackass, literally a bunch of stuff, bunch of random stuff, porn interviews, big pun interviews, fat people interviews.
Can't say that.
I don't think you can say that.
Oh, sorry. Cancel me. But yeah, Chris, thanks for joining. Alex obviously knows you. We don't really know you. Alex knows the shop, knows your background, owning the shops and stuff. And now you're out in Cali.
I am out in Cali. Do I do this? Do I need to do both?
Yeah, do both.
Do both. I'm doing both. Yeah, I'm out in California. July will be 3 years. It's a lot warmer than this shit. I didn't like the cold when I lived here, and now I really don't like the cold.
Who does?
So yeah, been out there 3 years. It's good. It's warm.
But you've spent time out there before you moved out there a lot, obviously,
I lived out
right?
there for 4 years when I was doing Big Brother, so 2000 and 2004, and then just back and forth throughout the years.
I'm glad you brought up Big. I wanted to ask you how you got into Big Brother, because weren't you? I guess when did they disband? Like 2004 was like. Were you there towards the end?
I was. Yeah, I cashed it out with everybody else. So January 2004 is when it ended, but I was doing music interviews. Is that a jam up? Okay. I was doing music interviews freelance for them. I don't know, probably like 96, 97, I think I started. I can't remember. I started doing stuff for Thrasher, in the skate world, that is. I started doing stuff for Thrasher, but before that I was doing stuff for XXL and just a bunch of hip-hop magazines. And then I would do these like really like traditional interviews with musicians, but that would be like the first half. But what I really wanted to do, like since I was a kid, like you had mentioned it before we started recording, like Howard Stern, I always wanted a job on the Howard Stern show. That was like the dream. And I thought that Stuttering John Menendez or Melendez was Stuttering John. I thought that his interviews on the red carpet of like the really like fucked up questions and the embarrassing questions were the funniest things.
Booker T wanted to kill him. The wrestler Booker T wanted to actually kill him.
I can imagine a lot of people wanted to kill him.
I wanted to kill him just because he stutters.
Spinneroonie.
Yeah, he was so upset with the whole Howard Stern show, and Stuttering Johnny wanted to fight him. Yeah,
but those interviews were hilarious. Like it's pretty ridiculous to have that dude go and ask Steve Martin like these crazy questions, and I just thought it was hilarious. So I started like doing a little portion of that, asking like 10 like ridiculous questions to musicians afterwards. And so with those questions, I would just send them to Big Brother, and they didn't have somebody on the East Coast doing interviews, and they only had 2 pages for music, so they were like, a Wu-Tang interview came out of nowhere. They're like, yeah, for sure we'll run this, So that's kind of how that started. So I just started doing just a ton of music interviews, and they just kept running them. And then they, like, end of 99, going into 2000, they had Jackass was about to pop off, so there was going to be a changing of the guard. A lot of people were leaving. Jeff Tremaine, Sean Cliver, Dmitry Eliaskovich, they were all leaving to go do Jackass, and so they needed backup dancers. And so I got a call to the bullpen, and they were like, hey, do you want to be one of the editors with Dave Carney? Dave Carney was staying behind, and in my opinion, Dave Carney is the greatest writer that skateboarding's ever had, on any level, not just comedy. He's a great comedy writer, but he could just write about anything. And so I was super excited just to have the chance to work with that dude and work under him and learn from him. I just instead of learning anything, I just got hooked on drugs and became an alcoholic. But that's how it started.
What good writer doesn't though?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's it. I mean, like, to be honest, like, I'm like in awe of all of you, because I always wanted to be a stand-up comic, but I have stage fright. So yeah, I can't get in front of people. Like I
We
bug out.
almost got you too. We almost got you to do it.
Oh man, we had
This is before I started coming around. He told me you
We
guys
had a
had
couple shows.
Yeah.
He let me do a couple shows here, and one of them I was like, dude, and he killed on a roast already.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I saw
Which
you
is like
roast him on comment.
way harder than like just doing a set.
Dude, I was terrified. Doing that roast, I was terrified. I was drinking a lot at that point in my life, and I did that show stone cold sober because I was just like, I can't fuck up. And I had flown out to California with my wife and just had like all these jokes ready, and I was like, yeah, they're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I got in my own head in the morning of the roast. I read them, and I was like, this is terrible. Every one of these is terrible. This is terrible. I can't do this. And so I just frantically wrote everything that you saw on the roast, like the morning of, and then I just was like in the mirror in the hotel room pacing and going over it. And just like my interviews, I never write down questions. If it's not up here, then I like, you know, because I never want to be that person reading the thing and not like being engaged, you know, like just being in the moment. And so, yeah, all that shit from that roast, like stone cold sober, wrote the jokes like a couple hours before, and I was like terrified. There was like 500 people in the room, and there was like 600 too many, you know, like I was panicked.
We got a lot of good questions and everything like that, and I was just wanting to touch on, because I do interviews too, and you were doing interviews, and I feel like now, because I was watching one of your interviews and you said something so interesting about Big Brother, how like skaters started to get upset if you said anything controversial, or ESPN wouldn't do something because it was too much. And I feel like now, you know, that's like the era we live in. But as an interviewer myself, I feel like it's like now the art of interview is different. Like no one cares about ABC or like New York Times. Now you could be a comedian and be like the greatest interviewer ever.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's all about your platform and your audience. And I feel like the art of the interview is kind of getting lost, because guys like me and you have to like build a brand first to interview who you want to interview. And that's basically the point I was just trying to say.
You know, I mean, I kind of see it the other way, because when I was coming up, man, it was, if you didn't have a magazine behind you, that publicist was not going to call you back. But now it's like, oh, you have 9.5 followers on a YouTube show that has 100 views. Sure, we'll do it. And like, it seems like people have more access to people.
You think that's bad though?
It's just, I don't think anything's bad or good. I just think it's different, you know, and it's just like the reality. Times change, you know. You know, I've got a friend that's got a really successful skate podcast, The 9 Club, and his name's Chris Roberts. He's a great
podcast.
host. I love to watch him. He has a totally different style. He goes in unknowing most of this stuff and learns in the moment with the fans, and it's rad. It works. But for me personally, like, I need to know the answer to every question I'm going to ask in advance, so that I know which direction that we need to take this, and so that when you say something, I already know the tying story and can be like, oh yeah, and then what about this one time, and like, it just keeps it moving forward, rather than, you know, sometimes there's no flow when you're just like, all right, this, and then tell me this, and then just tell me this, and then one time at band camp, and then this, and you're just like, I prefer to do like tons of research, hours and hours of research.
Yeah, my main point was like having leverage is so important now, because like Andrew Schultz or Rogan are comedians, but they could get on anyone to do an interview because of their platform. But like, I have to struggle to get interviews I really want to get.
Yeah, but I wouldn't go on your show either.
True, but no, but you get what.
Wait, fuck! I'm on your show.
You get what I'm saying though? Like back in the day, if you were working at Double XL or
my
Big
ass.
Brother magazine, you get interview anyone like Tony Hawk, like you did and stuff. But now it's different, because digital and platform is so important in social media, and it's like, if you're like Theo Vaughn, you get any interview you want because of the access and who you are. But if you're up and coming creator, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah, it's
You know?
Man, it's a different time because it's hard to lie. They could look you up on the interweb.
Yeah.
You know, there's a buddy of mine, Ian Mishna, that owns Jenka magazine. He tells this story where
Shout out, Ian.
he reached out to me and was like, yeah, I'm doing this interview for this thing. And I was like, okay, cool, let's do it. I never looked it up. I didn't Google it. I didn't, you know, like, I could have, I guess, but I didn't bother. And it's like, back then you could probably lie and make up a magazine, you know, and it was fine, you know, like, I don't know. We'd always just like make up ridiculous shit.
But your first interview, the Tony Hawk interview, that was before you even were doing anything. So
Yeah, that
you
was-
kind of, because you were working somewhere where they wanted you to do it, so you kind of got like, I guess not lucky because it was like your job to do it, but like that interview made you realize that you're going to do that, and you got paid for it, so it was kind of like, oh, I didn't know I could fully do this as like a job.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Disney by day, porn by night.
Yeah, I mean, and straight up, that's how it was. I was like working for like a bunch of porn mags at night, like, you know,
It's fucking hot.
over 40, over 50, over 70, and then like,
Damn.
A lot of blue veins.
but I was also like the copy editor and like the proofer and all this shit for like a porn publishing house. So they also did a bunch of like gay men's magazines. So it was like Black Inches, Latin Inches,
Ooh, Chris.
White Inch, and
Alex?
so they like it was like I was doing that at night, and then during the day I was working at Disney in the comic book department, and so it was pretty ridiculous, man. I was 17 and just out of my mind, just like didn't know I had ADHD, didn't know that like that was the reason I was just like, you know, probably on a spectrum, just doing like work around the clock and not stopping. But like what happened was as a kid, I always wanted to write comic books. Like I loved comic books. I was such a nerd. And then I started working for Motown Records had the original, like, I was going to say the original black imprint, but I think Milestone Comics came before it. That DC put out. So this was called Machine Works. It was a short-lived thing that Motown Records did, and they moved from Jersey City to LA. And before they left, they were like, "Here, call this person at Disney Adventures," and that's how I got the gig at Disney. And then I started to like work with all these cats in comics, and they were a bit disgruntled, and I was like, "What's the deal?" And then I saw their invoices, and I was like, "Oh shit!" So, is this thing on? Yeah, you're good. I'm definitely coming back. But yet, like, I found out you didn't get a lot of money working in comics, and then I was like, shit.
It's just crazy how polar opposite it is too. Porn at night and then comic books by day. Like,
Yeah, but
you kind of feel like out of place.
No, honestly, it's like you guys, right? Like, you're on stage, you talk about what you like. You're not going to talk, if you don't like politics, you're not a political comedian, right?
Yeah.
I have only written about the shit that I like, you know? So like I write about sex, I write about skateboarding, you know? I was a food critic for a little while because I was fat and I was like, I should eat and get paid for it. So that's like always been like the path that I took. But what happened was the sports dude from this little Disney magazine came to me. He's like, you know this guy, like Bird Dude? And I was like, what? And then like he's like a skateboarder, like Birdo. And I was like, Tony Hawk?
Birdo.
And I was like, yeah, I know Tony Hawk. I don't know Tony Hawk, but I know Tony Hawk. And he's like, can you interview him and ask him these 5 questions? I was like, all right. So I did it, and they were like, is that the cops? Everybody be cool.
We're getting raided.
But yeah, I asked him these questions, and it was like, what's your favorite trick? Like real like fluff questions. And then like a month later, he came and gave me a check for $500, and I was eating ramen and Gray's papaya, 2 for $1 at that time. And $500, I was like, what is this for? He's like, you did the interview. And I was like, but that was easy. He's like, yeah, it's super easy. And I was like, and I'm looking at like these guys that were doing comics and getting half that for a lot more work. And I was just like, maybe I should do that. And I just started like trying to interview people. And then my homeboy from here in Jersey, we've got a Redman t-shirt coming out with him. He's like the illest OG hip hop photographer. I mean, he shot everything, but
Yeah,
like
Eric Monroe.
Eric Monroe. Yeah.
Shout out Eric.
And that's my dude. He gave me my start, and I ran into him and I was like, hey, I did this Tony Hawk interview. He's like, dude, I shoot all these people all the time, but I don't have any words, so most people won't buy the photos. So if we teamed up, it was like a really bad version of like 48 Hours. And so we did like this buddy cop comedy, and like I would do the interviews and then he would shoot the photos, and then he called up Thrasher and he's like, hey, we've got a package. We could just send it to you, words and photos. And again, a Wu-Tang interview falls on your lap. They're like, yeah, hell yeah. And so that's kind of how it started.
And then it like fucking snowballed all the way into like a big pun interview too, like a little bit later.
Yeah, I think it was like shortly thereafter, to be honest. It was happening so quick, and the way New York always moves is just like super fast. But hip hop at that point, like, you know, new people were breaking left and right. You know, it was literally the best time, in my opinion, for hip hop, like the Renaissance era. Like Wu's first album drop, Mobb Deep's first album drop, you know, like Pun showed up on the Beatnuts track. Then he's got his own album coming out, you know, off the books. Yeah.
Good beat.
Yeah, it's so good.
Dude, I loved it too, just because like the whole, like you started off just roasting them, which is like such an East Coast way of starting, like just shooting the shit right now. And I believe you started like how much you weighing nowadays.
Dude, but the thing is, like,
and it was great though, like he just like went along with it, and it was like real organic, like almost like, because I feel like him, like stories about him or like already that I hear now, I know they were definitely floating around the street too. So he's probably like, this dude's got balls, like.
Well, the way I would do it back then was like, just to ease the situation, I would walk in a room and I'd have a case of beer, and I didn't smoke weed, but I'd bring a big bag of weed, and it would just be like a gift. I would just put it in front of whoever who I was interviewing, and they're like,
You got a gift too.
and they were like, what's up with this? And I was like, hey man, I just want you to relax and have a good time. And they're like, why is that? And I was like, because this might be the worst interview you ever do. And then they laugh, you know. And you know, I was like, you know, white dude in hip hop, and so, you know, the jokes are obvious to make against me, right? You know, and so, you know, like, it was always, I don't know, man, like, it's not a thing that people do anymore, but man, we would just like snap on each other. It was fun. It was like mental exercise, you know. And like, you go from the most obvious, you know, and then just cut deeper, you know. And so with Pun, man, like I said, the Beatnuts track just dropped, and so I'm Not a Player was on 12-inch at Fat Beats, like just that week. Like, he was so new. Like, he probably only weighed 420 pounds. You know, that's how light he was. And so he had like, you know, a 5X black t-shirt with like pizza dust and grease on it, and just like the thinnest link. You know, he was just coming up. He was just coming up. And I just, first question out of the box, like you said, I was like, hey man, like, what's your most expensive pair of shoes? You know, because everybody's into sneakers. He's like, I don't really fuck with sneakers, but boots, I've got like a $400 pair of boots. And I was like, man, don't you think that's a waste of money since you'll never get to see them? And his wife was there, and she starts laughing, so he starts laughing, and he just right away just goes for white boy jokes. And that's not racial or racist. It's just like, you know, like, it's just jokes, man, you know, like, and we laughed for, it was only a 1-page interview, but like that audio has got to be 90 minutes. We just like, I made other interviewers wait in the hallway. He's just like, no, we're drinking, we're smoking. Like, it was so fun. And then he got the last laugh on me. Like, such a good laugh that it made me piss my pants. Like, so I got, you know, I take photos, and so you're him, like, multiplied a couple of times, but you're him. And I got the camera around my neck with a strap, and I just pick it up, and then my head's down, and I come up like this, and my hat is backwards at the time. And as I come up like this, I can't really see, and then I put it in focus, and I realize it's a 9mm barrel.
That's his move. He's done that to multiple people.
Thank God I had the strap on the camera, because I just dropped it, and I was like, yo! I was like, all jokes. It was all jokes, man. And he just starts laughing at me. He's like, got your ass.
He did that to Cypher Sounds. Cypher Sounds doesn't drink. He pulled a gun on him in the club.
That's hilarious.
That's his move. He pulls guns on people, like, as a joke, I guess, or maybe serious. He also threw DJ Who Kid in a van.
Oh yeah, that's a great story.
Yeah, him and Fat Joe.
So, what would you say, like, you had like way more fun like doing in terms of like being an interviewer and meeting like the people that are on the scene, hip hop or skate industry?
Or porn.
Or porn too, yeah, man. You're covering ground, dude.
Yeah, it's man, they're all fun, and they're all different. Like, the thing that I really get down with like porn stars and, not enough people just like take a step back to realize like in all three of those categories, porn, hip hop, skateboarding, they're just people that are outsiders that live on the fringe of society.
A lot of similarities.
Like they don't want to do it the way other people do it. They don't believe in the same rules and the same laws, and they just do it their own way, and they want to fly under the radar. Even if like the biggest hip hop star, like they still are just would rather just be with their original crew and just not have to like really, deal with a ton of people. And, when I interview porn stars, we wind up talking, I got 2 kids, I wound up talking about like having kids and like what it's like for them in that industry having kids. And like, there's this one woman recently told me, I did this Mother's Day piece, and she was telling me that like, her daughter was the only kid in the class that wasn't invited to this one kid's birthday party, because of the line of work she does. Like she's good enough for the husband to jerk off to, but not good enough to like get the goodie bag.
The wife's jealous.
Exactly. But like all these like
kids got kicked out of school recently for that on OnlyFans. Actually, sorry to cut you off. But
really?
Yeah, there was kids in a classroom. Their mom did OnlyFans, and they got like kicked out of the school.
I am fascinated by OnlyFans.
Distractions. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I do interviews with porn stars too, and they get very big. And the funny thing is that like people hate on sex workers. I know you're big into that, and like I don't understand it.
Not on hating on them, on loving on them.
Yeah, a lot of the times people hate, and I see it on YouTube. A lot of the times it's like international countries, not to like put a place on someone, but you'll see a lot of negative comments on YouTube and stuff like that. But I don't think they give a fuck.
Man. Like,
yeah,
just
even TikTok.
There's people that are super negative, and there's people that are positive. But like to answer your question, man, like I have been skateboarding since I was 12, and I'm not good, and so like when I get to interview people in skateboarding that can do it, like I fan out pretty big. Like the questions might not come across, but like that makes my heart sing, because I'm not a rapper. I can't rap. I wouldn't even try. And my wife will tell you I'm not very good at sex. So like I can like at least relate to like I can do an ollie. And I don't know, they're all different, man. Like for like when it comes to like rappers, I put myself in like some really bananas situations in the 90s that like, I wasn't even thinking. I just thought it was normal that like my skateboard gave me access to everywhere, and it's not, to use the phrase like I was colorblind. It's like, I understand like we're tourists, right? Like there's certain places we can and can't go, but man, I really did believe that skateboard could just like, it was like a magic carpet and could take me anywhere. Yeah, man. And so, dude, I remember getting off a train in Brownsville before it became Whitesville, and like in a Charlie Brown t-shirt, like bleach blonde hair, like just looking crazy, oversized pants, and I was there to interview Ruck and Rock, Sean Price, like Heltah Skeltah, and I what's that? Yeah, the whole crew. And so it was just those two, and I get off the train and I'm just like, what's up, guys? And they look at me, and they're not terrified even for me. They're terrified for themselves being with me. And they went and got an SUV and threw me in there and like pulled me up to like a utility entrance to their building and ran me up like a back elevator so that I wouldn't be seen. And they wouldn't be seen with me. Like they're like, "What do? You can't like just show up here like this. They're gonna shoot you, and then we're gonna accidentally get shot." And I was like, what did I do? They're like, your whole kit is wrong. They're like, you don't own a goose down jacket? I was like, no, but I'm just a skateboarder. I was like, and it's summertime. You guys with the goose down jackets, I don't get it. But yeah, man, I like those kind of things would just be adrenaline rushes for me. I would just be like so hyped to like talk with these cats and just like get a different worldview. And, it was always interesting, man, because like at the end of the day, everybody was just trying to get out of their situation and better their life. And it was like such a relatable thing, be it hip hop or skateboarding or porn or whatever it is, man. So I don't really have like one wasn't better than the other. It's just different,
Do you think we live in a clout world now, like Tekashi 6ix9ine? Good documentary on him actually on Showtime. But we live in a clout world now. Back then, was it similar to that, or was it kind of just like more of adrenaline rushes? Like you didn't care about being on the camera per se, like because like for example, like I know you did some stuff with Jackass. That story's funny as well. With them, MTV saw that and they wanted to bring them on. But now it's like for anyone to be a pranker, like now you would blow up on Instagram first. Like no one's gonna take a chance now and be like, here's a show. But like I feel like it's like a clout world we live in now compared to back when you were doing things. Unless it's the same. I don't know.
I talked to Alex about this, but like I have this like Larry David thing happening, and it's like it's like I have ADHD and I'm going for the testing on Asperger's. Like there's something wrong with my brain, honestly, straight up. And I'm down for the joke for one, you know what I mean? Like as long as I'm laughing, I think it's funny, and that is not really healthy, in society. I'll do really good in the woods, but like honestly, man, like when they started to do Jackass and it popped off, like I was on my first date with my wife and these kids here at like McCormick's Pub, I think it was, or something here in town, they came up to me and like the only thing I ever did on that show was like puke. And like
dress up as an elf.
And it was just like the only reason I was able to puke like that was because I was an alcoholic and I was just lubed up already. And so these frat boys came up to me and they were like, "Can you puke on us?" And I was like, "What?" And here's this pretty girl and I'm on a date with, and I was like, "Dude, get the fuck out of here with that. Like, what are you talking about?" And they were like, come on, you're an asshole. I was like, "You want me to fucking puke on you in a bar, man? What's wrong with you?" And that was it. Like I was down to write stuff for the show, but like I was like, hey, this, and I love those guys and I love Jackass and I love what they do. But for me, like getting seen like was really not what it was about for me. Like it was just about like getting the byline and like really just like getting to meet people, and like my big regret is that I didn't film all that shit because like so many crazy interactions. But like, yeah, I get the clout thing and it's definitely a thing. And like I said, like I want to start a Lonely Fans account myself, but like, like it really wasn't ever about that. But I get it and I understand why people would, it's not my trip. Like I said, like I can't even get on a stage,
You could, dude. We're working on it. Yeah.
I feel the same.
I joke for one, seriously, like
that's all you need.
If I could just be on a stage by myself in an empty theater, then it would probably be the ideal situation.
I'm ADD too. Shout out to that. And also stage fright with comedy, but I've done it a few times. But yeah, it's definitely tough. The thing I ask you about that, because you've done interviews and I like doing them too, but like people are like, you got to do more, bro. Like you have to be a media company and all this shit. And like, it's so annoying because you see on IG or TikTok, like people do things for clout and they blow up so big, and like they don't have the talent per se. Like you could be the greatest interview ever, but you got to like be seen now too, as part of it.
Well, nobody wants to see me. Look at this.
I don't like being seen either. I'm like, I hate it.
Body. Like,
I hate being in the clips.
It's not a good look.
I just like asking the questions.
My nose is crooked. Like it's not. This is not a sellable look.
No, but I feel you on that about being behind the scenes, but like still providing value and asking good questions and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that's cool, man, is like, I'm just packing up all my shit because we're about to move, and I was like coming across, like I used to have this like little Willie Loman briefcase, and it was like all my clips from magazines like Double XL, because like I worked on like the first bunch of issues of Double XL, and like all Thrasher clips and all this stuff. And before the internet, before fucking email, I used to have to run around New York City and like show up in the lobby of like Harris Publications, where like, they did Slam and all like these other magazines that I was down for, and like be like, here's my things. Could I maybe get commissioned for an interview? Like it was like a different hustle, man. And then like, even if you got that gig, that's $150 and the check comes 3 months down the road. Like it was definitely not clout, and it was just a different thing. And so, again, not good or bad, just different. And I applaud like all the kids on their grind now, like that are doing it, that have like outlets on different channels, and it's like, it's funny because like kids will hit me up and ask for advice, and I was like, yo man, you live in the future. Like you tell me how it works, what's going on out there, like what's Grindr like.
Yeah. With XXL, do you know Elliot Wilson? Wasn't he starting up? I don't know the years. I'm trying to think of it. I remember Benzino beef with Source. I remember Ja Rule, 50 Cent, where that seemed like a fun time in hip hop journalism.
Yeah, but like I was already like wanting to like find my weird angle and like way to contribute. And so I think like in the second issue, like it was just like a little sidebar, like how to get shit for free. And really, like, you know, I had just read Abby Hoffman's Steal This Book, and anybody like that hasn't read it should read it. It's like from the early 70s, I think, maybe 69. Steal This Book. And it's just like straight anarchy, you know? It's like telling people like the way to hustle the airlines, and the way to like steal gas, and like just all kinds of shit. And I was just like, I basically was just like doing this column like that, like, all right, what's a modern version of this, you know? And like, I was starting to do those fun or funny interviews, but like, I was also such a hip hop fan that like, there were some people that I just couldn't. Like, they were like, you want to interview Nas? I was like, whew, nah, you know? Like, I was going to name my son Nas. That's how much I love Nas. And like, later in life, I interviewed Ghost, but like, I had probably 4 opportunities to interview Ghost, and I turned them down. And they were like, dude, you're turning down a Ghost interview? I was like, yo, like, there was a rule at Big Brother. If you were a fan, like a super fan of somebody, you weren't allowed to interview them because you would just fan out too hard. Right. And that was my rule with Ghost. Like, I couldn't. I was like, no way. Because to me, like, it's Nas and then it's Ghost, you know? And like, I don't know, man. Like, Ghost used to just say the craziest shit. And just like his thought process and the words that he used are so different than anything I had ever heard by not just like a hip hop artist, but like a writer or a poet. Right. And I was like, dude, like, you're on some shit. And it's just like, you can see everything that he's talking about when you close your eyes. Like, you listen to his albums with your eyes closed. Like, you know, like, some people need the beat to help you get there. Some people need to like set the tone. But like, man, like, you could dissect every line and be like, dude, this dude is so dope.
Yeah, like All That I Got.
Oh my God, that was my wedding song. I danced with my mom. That's like at my wedding. That's why that's the song I danced with my mom. And like, dude, my mom was crying. She didn't even understand what Ghost was saying, but like, you just feel it. You just feel it, you know. And like, we came up. I was just telling you outside. Like, we came up just not in a great situation. My mom worked in a warehouse for 44 years. You know, my old man like beat on all of us. It wasn't healthy, man. And so that song, although a very different upbringing and existence, man, resonates with people that grew up in a shitty situation, you know, and that speaks to everybody. That's not like a race thing. That's just like, you know, it's right what we're at right now in society, right? It's a haves and have-nots. And there's more have-nots, and we can all relate. It doesn't matter like what color you are, man. It's like most of us don't have shit, and we can relate on that level.
Word.
What about Jay-Z? You like him?
Is it an on-site beef?
You know what? Like, he doesn't even know I exist. And similarly, I don't really pay attention to his existence. You know, like, I just wasn't a Jay-Z fan, you know, because I was so in tune with hip hop at that point. And I know that Das FX has good beats, but Das FX sucks. And Jay-Z came out as like on some Das FX shit. So
speed rapping, right?
And
he's
the boom,
a knockoff.
sickety boom, singing like, and I was just like, I'm not really feeling this. And then like, you know, obviously he changed his whole thing up, but like, there was, when it went super flossy, like, I couldn't relate to it. Again, have not, you know? So like, when hip hop started to go like really flossy, like, it was hard for me to relate on that level. Like, when Ready to Die came out, right? Like, Biggie was as grimy as you could get. The next album, Puffy got him really like, I thought I told you that we won't stop, you know, like, and it was like, it was dope. They were using all the right songs for samples and all the right beats, but what they were talking about was aspirational, but I couldn't relate to it, you know, like, it wasn't relatable to me. And it was like, and honestly, like, I get seasick. I don't want a yacht, you know, like, I really like couldn't, like, some of the stuff I was just like, this is not for me, you know, but I do know what it's like to get like knocked the fuck out in a park. I can relate to that, you know, just trying to buy some weed, you know, like, and then now, like, even to this point, just trying to feed my kids, you know, like, I know hustle. I know that part of it. And that was relatable, you know, and I understand like the goal was to like create aspiration, but like, I don't know, Jay-Z just didn't really do it for me like that. Am I rambling? Am I?
No.
Is this?
I
Is the
find it
mic on?
interesting how you wouldn't interview Ghostface Killah because you were a fan of him so much. Because like when I interviewed Charlemagne, he said like the whole thing of him being in radio is like you're passionate about like someone you fuck with. Like Nas interview would be dope because you know so much. But at the same time, I kind of get what you mean too because you don't want to go on there joking with Nas and have him be offended by you.
You know, I don't think like it's like you guys, right? You tailor your jokes to the audience, right? So I wouldn't like I would know which jokes to go with and which not to, but it was really just like I don't know, man. I don't trip out on people. I don't ask for autographs. I don't ask for photos. But like, if someone has made me feel something,
Yeah.
like deep down
That's
inside,
passion, though.
like
That real shit.
that will make me like a child. You know, like honestly, like there's like certain songs where you put them on, man, and you feel safe. You remember a moment in your time where like everything was good, you know, and like, fuck, man, I lived with this DJ, now producer, Musa Bailey in Jersey City, and like he was like one of the illest DJs at the time. He was like always in DJ battles, and I'm so thankful to have lived with him, man, because he hipped me to so much great music, and like just he was real good at like making sure that like there was like a stop gate at the door, no whack shit came in the house, and so I had like only the best of the best of music that hadn't even been broken yet. And so yeah, man, like those are like the Woo stuff, like all of it, man, like it was just like I don't know, man, like I'm 19 forever when I hear that shit. So like if I had the opportunity at like younger days to interview Ghost, I would just like I'd be like, yo, I love you.
Chris is
I would just hug him. I would just hug him.
I get it.
Like,
As a consumer hip hop fan, I'd love that though. Like I'd rather have you do it than fucking like Drew Barrymore on a talk show. Not to be a dick, I'm just being honest. Like an example, I'd rather
yeah,
have
but
a
if
fan
I can't
of
get
it.
a sentence off, then what good am I? You know, like I'll be like, ha 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 ha.
I'd be like, hey man, I'll help you out.
You know?
Hey man, like having the self-awareness to know, like, all right, like the self-awareness and like the respect for your own craft and their time to be like, you know what?
I know, I was
now's
asking-
not the time, like for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was doing the comedy tip, like he didn't want to interview him the same way he interviewed Big Pun or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, and then Nas pulls a gun on you. You're like, damn, my idol pulled a gun on me.
Yeah,
That'd be a good story.
I think Nas pulling a gun might be way more terrifying. Like, you know what I mean?
Nah, he's got like 150 people with him at all times. That's Snoop Dogg. Snoop
I
said
would
that
assume so.
Everyone pulled up. Like Nas is real in the streets. Like everyone pulled up on him back in the day when there was a beef. He's like, you don't want to mess with Nas.
Zulu Nation, baby.
But you know, like also just to go back, like these are all human beings, right? With real shit. Like we perceive them in this larger than life way, but they're just real people. And like I had told you about like this Method Man situation, like what was it? Judgment Day was the second album. So Judgment Day was coming out.
After
Tikal came out crushed, and then Judgment Day was about to come out. And so I flew in. I was living in California at the time. Flew in to interview him at the Def Jam office, and I walked in there, and I'm just sitting in the office, and it gives me anxiety just to think about it, you know. And so I walk in. I'm sitting there, and he walks in, walks right past me, takes a seat at the desk, and just puts his feet up. And just pulls out a TV guide. For the people that don't know what a TV guide is, it's like a book that told you when shit was on television. It was stupid. Like a whole book. And it came out every week. Like the times changed. And so he goes at the back of the book, he goes to the crossword puzzle. He just starts doing the crossword puzzle. And I'm just sitting there. And I was like, all right, like maybe jokes, you know, like maybe he's like, you know, creating the mood. I was like, all right. But then like 5 minutes turns to 10 minutes. And, you know, in these situations, you get 30 minutes with somebody, you know. And so I was like, my man, you okay? And he's like, silent. I was like, okay, this is fucked up.
You want to call me?
And so I was like, hey, dude, if you don't want to do this, it's all good. I mean, they flew me in from Cali to do this, but if you don't want to do it, it's all good. And like, I couldn't even wager what was up with them, right? And so without even looking up, he just goes, you threw my son down a flight of stairs. And I was like, was like, dude, I've never met you. I never met your son. And he's like, my son fell down a flight of stairs on the way here. And if I didn't have to be here with you, he wouldn't have fell down the stairs. Like weird rap math, right? And I was just like, yo, dude, then like just go. Like don't come here to do press with me. Like I'm cool. I'm fine with it. And he's like, and like he just was silent and doing the thing. I was like, hey man, like it's all good. Like I'm just gonna split. Don't stress it. And he's just like, yeah, man. Like, and he just started talking to me about his son, and it was like really heartfelt. And I was just like, I had just recently had lost my grandfather, and so I was like, hey, man, you know, like we were just relating on just like heavy emotions, and then we just started chopping it up and eased into it. We wound up talking for quite a while, but like those first couple minutes were like so tense, and you know, like it sticks with me where like. I don't want a situation like that with Ghost. I don't want a situation.
I feel you.
You know, like
and you don't want to when you meet your idols and it's like not a good situation. It's a weird thing in your life.
yeah, man. Like, dude, when
Oh my god.
I kind of had that with Young Jeezy, but yeah,
How
I
old
feel
were
you.
you when this happened?
I don't know.
It ain't even your fault, to be honest. I heard he really had a lot of negative issues with the press because I heard his wife was sick and Wendy Williams said stuff. I don't know if it was around the same time. It recently came out again recently, and he was very upset with the press and didn't like anyone in media.
Well, I told him, I was like, hey, man, this is for a skateboard magazine, so it's like it could be whatever you want it to be. We could just have fun with it, you know, like, you know. I'm not going to ask you these dick jokes or these fart jokes, but
Crazy
you know,
how
like,
his meditation was the crossword puzzle
Yeah,
like, to relax.
And know it's the raddest thing? He dipped afterwards, like, you know, he said goodbye. He left the TV guide on the desk, and I was like, fuck that.
Still got
And
it?
as I'm moving, I just came across
That's funny.
with like his old address in Staten Island with the crossword puzzle half done, and I was just like,
Now I got a question. How much do you want to bet that he used the rap line from one of the TV guides? Probably does it all the time, right?
oh,
Probably
yeah,
his hobby.
Kaiser Soze. Yeah,
Probably is like,
full
yo, that's a
Kaiser
bar.
Soze.
That's a bar.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, but also
I
like
mean-
in the interview, he was probably just like using stuff from the TV guide.
Yeah.
But, and then like, dude, I had another one. So like we crossed paths again, or maybe it would have been earlier, I think. So Forever came out, and we were at the Loud offices in Midtown, and
Shout out Loud.
they were like, everybody in the Wu-Tang Clan was irate, on fire, and there I am just sitting there, and it turns out that there was like a record store in Midtown that was selling the album a day early, and they weren't, you know, they didn't care that it was like being sold. They cared that the numbers wouldn't be tracked, you know, and they were irate. It was like a heavy situation, and I'm just like, yo, I could come back. I was like, I'm like, yeah, the worst time, like full Larry David, always. My whole life.
Funny you
is
said
just
that
like
though about
Larry
Method Man,
David.
because I heard that he was tough to like get along with in the industry. He kind of still is. He like 50 Cent jokes with him, and you could tell he doesn't like when 50 Cent trolls him and stuff. But they're on the same show. 50 Cent created Power, and Method Man's an actor in it, so it's good. But you could tell like recently what had happened was Wendy Williams said that she slept with Method Man, and like fucking 50 Cent was kidding around like Meth wouldn't fuck you and all this stuff. But like he doesn't really say much about it, Method Man. And his wife was sick for a while. And then she brought that out back in the day. I don't know if it was the same time. And he like hated interviews. He talked about that. How he hated press interviews. I don't know if that's the why, but that was crazy how he blamed him for the kid falling down
Yeah,
the
but
stairs.
on the flip,
like damn, what the fuck?
oh, it's always the worst, man. Like,
That
always
energy,
the worst timing.
like he brought the like negativity kind of.
But on the flip side, like I've only heard great stories about like him and his comedic timing, and he's just got jokes,
Oh,
and he's
yeah,
real
yeah.
lighthearted and easygoing, you know. So it's situational, right? You
Yeah,
know,
for
like,
sure.
You know, I'm a handful half the time. You know, like I just happen to have some Turkish coffee right now, so like I'm okay.
Maybe he was like, fuck this skateboarder guy. Big pun. He called him fat. I saw that. Some people research when you don't even realize. They're like, look into your stuff and be like, oh, he's a jokester.
I doubt it, man. Back then, like
That's
we were
funny.
printing like 10 copies of the magazine, so like nobody saw that shit. But I will tell you a funny Turkish coffee joke story. It's more of a story. It's one of my favorite stories. I've got like go-to stories, and this is like one of my all-time favorite ones. We were on a skate trip in Utah. I think it was like 2001, and we got rained out. We couldn't skate, like, so we're just stuck at this bar drinking like 3-2 beer and like really, really shitty, like, you know, less like 20 proof alcohol. And so we were drinking for like 9 hours straight and like more sober than when we came in. Like it was just a waste of a day. And this one kid we were with, Philadelphia. I don't know if he wants his shout out. This story.
Sorry.
Yeah, bleep. This one kid we were with was just like, I'm over it. I'm going back to the hotel. And so he walked through this park back to where the hotel was, and he saw this young lady reading a book in the rain with an umbrella, and he just like stopped and he just started kicking it to her. And she's like, you want to come back to my place? So he goes back to her place, and again, he's been drinking shitty beer for like 9 hours straight. And they just like, they start making out, and she's like, hey, do you want some Turkish coffee? And he's like, yeah, sure. Never had Turkish coffee in his life, so doesn't know what it's like. And for those that don't know, at the end, it's just tar. It's just like, it's like, it gets muddy, and it doesn't mix well with shitty beer. And so he slams the Turkish coffee, and then he goes back on the couch, and they're making out again, and he just, and he's like, I'm sorry. And she's like, no, it's cool, don't worry about it. And they start making out again, and then his stomach's rumbling, and he's like, and oh shit is right. Like he's like, I gotta go. And she's like, no, it's okay, don't be embarrassed, it's all good. And he's like, no, I gotta go. And she's like, no, stay. He's like, I have to go. And so he just bolts. He's like, I'll call you tomorrow. And like gets 2 steps outside the door, slams the door, and he just buckles over, he said, drops trow, and just shellacks her entire door, like sprayed shit everywhere. And in my mind, the girl was probably like, what happened with this dude? Why'd he bolt? And she's probably looking through the peephole of just like dude's butthole just spraying everywhere.
Oh, man.
And then we run into him at the hotel. He's got no shirt on. He's got no socks. His pants got poop all over him. I was like, what happened to you? He's like, I had to use the shirt and the socks. And I was like, dude, you got to change your pants. You smell like shit. And like, dude, one of my favorite stories. And it is the reason I love to drink Turkish coffee.
He's going to do that at the end of this interview.
Oh, God.
You know what's
That's
crazy?
legendary.
Like, I haven't shit my pants yet, and I know it's coming just because everyone has a I shit my pants
Oh,
story.
dude. I had a homie that was coming over the South River Bridge, and if you know the South River Bridge, it's about 2 feet long. Like, you get over it quick. And my buddy couldn't hold it. And so and this move was, like, legendary. He pulls his pants down and, like, shits in his hand and throws it out the window. And then he shows up at my mom's house to pick me up to go skate. And I was like, what are you doing with my mom's hose? He's like, I'm hosing shit off. I was like, what? And it was so crazy. And then, like, I don't know, do any of you guys have kids?
No.
Like, just
Thank God.
just know that, like, when you have kids, like, you are going to handle a lot of human feces. Like, bare hand that shit. Dude, my little guy, he's 9 years old now, but like when he was whatever age a kid learns to shit, we were at my mother-in-law's house, and she had just redone her kitchen, and like, you know, super respectful of my mother-in-law. My little guy comes running out of the bathroom butt naked, and he's like, Dad, I did it. I pooped in the toilet. I was like, that's great, dude. That's great. You're a grown-ass man now. You shit in the toilet. And then he goes, yeah. And he just got super long, and I was like, oh, you're not done, huh? And like, brand new kitchen. I wasn't gonna let him shit on my mother-in-law's kitchen floor. And so I just put my hand down there and just let him just fill it up. And my wife runs in, she's like, oh, did he tell? Oh. And she's like, what do you want me to do? And I was like, there's only one thing you can do. She's like, what? I was like, get the camera. And so I have this photo where he's smiling and I'm like really smiling, and over in the corner of the frame you just see that my hand is full of kid shit. Yeah, dude. And then one time I was just telling this story, my older son, like, dude, we were out camping and we were in the woods and walking. He's like, I have to go to the bathroom. And I was like, all right, everybody go ahead, I'll take care of this. And so I sat him on my knee, and his ass was right here, and I was like, listen, dude, all you got to do is just let it happen. Just let it drop, and we're good. And he's like, okay. And it took forever, and it started to come out, and as soon as the air hit his butthole, he just went, whoop, and jumped up, And I just looked, and he's here, and he's looking at me, and there's just like a perfectly placed log on my leg. And I'm just like, dude, you jump forward. How does a log turn? It's like the magic bullet, like just a magic turd just like laying right on my leg. And I'm just like, tight, dude. That's tight, dude. Dude, I keep a photo in my phone in my favorites. So like when people tell me that they're about to have a kid, I send them this photo, and it's just shit diaper, just shit everywhere, just like shellac ding dong, just shit. And because they're like, you got any advice? And I just send them that, and I was like, shit happens. Dude, my favorite dad joke, when like any dude tells me they're gonna have a kid, I'm always like, that's sick. Who's the dad? And they all get a kick out of it. But there was a cat, and you probably know him. He was coming in here every Saturday, and we would just chop it up, and he would just like tell the craziest stories, and like beefing with his girl stories, and like dumping buckets of urine on his carpet. Like he's always like these extremely interesting, volatile stories.
I think I know.
And he was over like by the shoe rack, and he's like, hey, my girl's about to have a baby. And I was like, that's dope. Who's the dad? And he just looks at me. He's like, what do you know? And I was like, no. You say I'm having a baby. I say, who's the dad? You laugh. That's how this works.
Just ended his world.
And I was just like, dude, I almost died for that joke. I was like, he was not psyched. I was like, no, it's a joke. And even when he took it as a joke, finally, he was just like,
He's going through the
yeah, like he probably left and killed somebody. Yeah.
Not good.
Yeah.
I have a question. Someone like DM'd because I said I was interviewing you, and you do a lot of interviews. I don't know if you could answer this. I don't know if you want to answer it, but they said advice for up and coming journalists, because like magazines now, especially during this pandemic and COVID, like aren't as popular, and obviously like print media and all that's like kind of like out, you know, old school, like kind of like radio now. They were asking like what advice you have for up and coming journalists, and like is it all social media and like digital stuff now? Like interview-wise, I guess, or like writing journalism.
Honestly, it's the best time to start your own shit. Like, just own your shit, start your shit, do your shit, puff it, pass it, do it. Like, that's the best advice. It's like, I don't know, the coolest stuff I'm seeing is from kids that are just doing their own thing, so they don't have to do it a certain way, you know, or they don't have to like answer to anybody. You know, you're gonna stumble, you're gonna fuck up. It happens, but like the only way to learn is just like to do it. You know, like if you're a fan of certain style, like you at least have a template, a blueprint of the way it's been done. Just do your own shit. Just don't do what I did. Like it's not, you know, nobody likes that shit anymore.
It's like, and they were just saying like, does it even matter getting a degree in journalism anymore? I feel like I don't know.
Man, I have been thrown out of 6 of the best colleges in New Jersey. So, you know, if you want to like waste some money in New Jersey, I could tell you what schools to drop out of.
Shout out to me.
Yeah. But
I would say
honestly, like
internet popularity probably over
the reality is you could probably get a Harvard degree tonight off the internet and put your name on it. Like, it really doesn't matter. I can save you $500,000 by telling you to print out a degree. No one checks.
That's so true.
You know, it doesn't matter. And there's like, honestly, there's no money in going to school.
Yeah.
You know? If my kids are listening, though, don't do drugs and stay in school.
Someone asked basically, why are adult entertainment interviews so popular? I do them.
Because everybody loves sex, you know, and like what I don't understand is like, why is attacking the adult industry so popular? Because none of us would be here without some fucking. So what is the hang up?
It's the comments. It's even on TikTok, my niece, she's young, and she was like, your stuff's blowing up, but the comments are negative to women. And I was looking, and I kind of like felt guilty in a way, but it was not necessarily my fault. But I see the way someone could say something, or the way you word something, or the clip you put out somewhere. People could write and like, you know, rebuttal against that, be like, fuck bitches, or like, I'm sick of these.
But that's
hoes.
your job to police that and be like, dude, keep that shit out of here.
The comments are tough though on YouTube. It's so negative, and TikTok, young kids. And stuff.
YouTube is a cesspool for toxicity.
But like,
you know, like the people really get really gnarly. We did this amazing. Jeff Grosso did a love letters to the LGBT community, and like, dude, I personally was in there day and night, like screenshotting the NAR and deleting it, and just like creating a case study for just like how fucked people can be.
Biggest haters.
It's just unnecessary. But like, again, like, I was a negative person for a long time before I started therapy. You know, like, it's just, you got to ask the question, what is causing that person to be an asshole?
And it was funny how you said Disney to porn, and you said you didn't get shit for it. I feel like now people get shit for it because even myself, like if I send interviews, this has actually happened. Like if I send it to like a network, they'll be like, we can't work with you because of your prior interviews or stuff. And then I've had businesses say like, cut out all the porn stuff, and I'm sponsored by Fleshlight for my interviews. And people have said, like, you shouldn't do that because you're going to hurt yourself in a lot of sponsorships. And then you look at Joe Rogan, the number one comedian, popular comedian.
You love Joe Rogan, huh?
Number one podcast in the world. He was sponsored by Fleshlight. And he's number one now. So it goes to show you it doesn't fucking matter, really. But I don't love Joe Rogan. I'm just throwing Rogan out there because
I'm just busting your balls.
He's like the
because
biggest.
you love Joe Rogan.
Because he's the biggest podcaster.
Dude, Marco's going against the grain. He doesn't like Jay-Z. He doesn't like Rogan.
I didn't say I didn't like him. I'm just...
No, bro. When you were talking, I like Howard Stern.
I liked him when he had more hair, but he can't do anything about
I like Howard Stern as well, and it's tough to get on the Howard Stern show. You have to create your own thing, like you said, and radio is fucking dead. But back to the porn stuff, I think it's funny how there's such a bad misconception.
Yeah, and I think
people
that,
want to
like,
hire you or connect with you.
I think that like every 10 years or so, people get a little bit more relaxed about porn. Like in the 90s, there was the Vivid girls, and they were super popular, and it like was a bit more mainstream. And like little by little, things are like, they become a little bit more like, here's an opportunity with OnlyFans. You know, like it's kind of like the segue into like people having access to do their own stuff. It's a weird situation because there's a lot of hardworking women that do OnlyFans, and then like anybody thinks they can do an OnlyFans, and it's not cool. So they're taken away from that economy there. But like the reality is, man, like I was an idiot. I'm still an idiot, but like I was really an idiot coming up, and I didn't think I'd ever run for president, so I didn't really think any of this shit would matter. And I was just like, dude, I like sex, so I'm gonna do sex shit, and I like this, and I like this, and I'm gonna talk about these things. I didn't really think that, you know, like people would harsh me about the sex stuff because everybody fucks. But it really, like, I don't know, it's really a shame that people have such a hang up about that stuff, and I just think it's completely unnecessary because some of the nicest, kindest people I know are sex workers.
Give good advice.
And like Fleshlight, you know, I've got a friend, Joanna Angel. She's got a pro model pussy.
She does the live shows for them.
And she's the best.
She's cool.
And she's Jersey girl. She graduated here from Rutgers. And,
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I love her. And she is like, you know, like,
Joanna.
Man, like as a friend, like when I'm like going through it, like she's a person that like I can turn to, and she's like a solid friend. And like, you know, people just like think that this entertainment, this acting that goes down on the screen is just like, that's what they're doing 24/7. They're just, and it's not the case. It's like they're regular folks, and they are just smarter than you because they found out a way to cash in on the thing you're doing for free.
Entrepreneurs in a way. It's weird, yeah, to end the subject soon, but like it's funny because people are like, yeah, your interviews humanize them, and I'm thinking they are human.
Well, I did this show where I did like this like mini documentary series. One was on Joanna.
That's dope.
One was on Belladonna, and one was on Kimberly Kane. And that was the whole thing, man. Like I just like to humanize them was the goal. Like just like I always laugh at that column. I think it's in Stars Magazine. They're just like us, you know. And it's like, look, celebrities have faces, you know. Like they're just normal people. And that was like, I was just trying to get that across. It's like, you know, like when I would talk with Belladonna, like we would always just talk about being parents. You know, like these folks are just regular people.
Even the entrepreneur hustle you see from them is inspiring in a way. The way they have merch stores or creating an audience and doing stuff.
And so many of them were ahead of the curve on owning their own shit.
Yeah.
You know, like
everything that's funny you said that, because everything from the print magazine to radio to now porn and studios, everything is like you said, do it yourself, or like, you know, be your own like entrepreneur type mindset as well.
Yeah.
Because like you can't be a fucking radio guy because radio's dying in a way. Same with print magazine, same with regular porn studios and sets. They just make an OnlyFans and do it there live.
I mean, the name of the game is always like trying to figure out what's the next thing.
Crypto.
You know, like if
NFTs.
you're chasing what people are doing right now, you're already late.
Yeah.
You know, like figure out what the next thing is.
Oh yeah, you brought up ADHD a lot in this. I was just wondering what you do to like I don't know if you want to talk about it, combat that or work with that.
Oh man,
A lot of people who listen have ADHD, including myself.
I grind my teeth a lot. My son,
Exercise, skating probably helped.
I'm now medicated. You know, like I got diagnosed a little over a year ago. I'm on prescribed medicine. I probably need some other shit because I have a son who's 11 years old, and when he was 3, he was diagnosed here at Robert Wood Johnson for being on the spectrum. And, you know, like at that point, he wasn't really talking. He wasn't looking at you. And it was tough, man. He was like, he just had no empathy. He had no, like, it was like hugging him was like hugging a telephone pole. You know, he just was, it was tough, man. Like it was really bananas and eye-opening, right? Because I'm in the room during the diagnosis and like all the testing, and the lady's like, well, he does this. And I was like, yeah, but I do that, so it's nothing. And like, she's like, and every time I would say that, she'd just give me this weird look, like basically trying to tell me that you're on the spectrum, guy. You might want to get tested. If so many of the things that the little ASD kid has, you do, like it tends to come from the father's side of the family. So it's opened up like a can of worms in my head. And over the past 7 years, like learning about him has really taught me a lot about myself and that shit. And so it got to the point where like, dude, these thoughts are just too crazy in my head. And I went and saw somebody, you know, and this is after going to therapy for like 6 years, which I encourage everybody to do, just to try to understand, you know, like where this shit is all coming from. Because, you know, very traumatic childhood. So I thought like, oh, this just came from like, you know, being born into violence. You know, this is like, my head is chaotic. And, you know, like when they came back and they're like, no, you are for sure ADHD. And, you know, we'd like to do some additional tests. The apocalypse happened, so I haven't had the chance to go back and do those tests. But like, you know, like just like, dude, like eye contact, like I barely, you know, you could see, like you watch the tape, like I'm looking away, like I don't do a lot of eye contact still to this day. And I need to, it's like, you know, I have to work on that. But like for the ADHD specifically, you know, I take medicine. I make mad lists, like all the lists.
I was gonna say a lot of people probably they fuck with this shop, and also you work for Vans. You're like a success story with ADD. So what do you do that works? You know,
man, I don't know.
You might not look at it that way, but people might who are like on the come up.
But I fucked up. I still fuck up a lot. You know, and it's like I'm not empathetic naturally. You know, like it's not something that comes easily. I try to do better. But honestly, like, I don't know. I fuck up a lot. I've fucked up a lot. And the only way that like, my kids are really the motivation. Like, once I had my kids, I was like, you have to try to not talk to people the way you talk to them. You have to try to change. You have to try to do better because, you know, you have to feed these kids. And it's hard, man. It's like, I'm not fucking good at, like, being a person. You know, I had a fucked up childhood, and then I was addicted to drugs and alcohol. So I have fucked up more than I haven't fucked up. Like, you know, my therapist said to me, she's like, you need to start going with like your fourth thought because your first couple things you say is wrong. And I was like, my instinct was to tell her she's the death of comedy. and she's like, see, you need to stop. But like, again, goes back to like when we were coming up and snaps and just like quick response. And I was really good at that, but didn't know why. And the reason was because like my head is going 1,000 miles an hour. You know,
like a lot of comedians actually too.
It's funny. Say even down to like the eye contact thing, like we all as comics have like a problem with that. Like I don't know what it is. Even like that's why like we almost prefer a stage because there's too many people to kind of have
sensory overload. Actually,
yeah, it is. It's just a lot of eye to look every single person in the face is like so fucking weird.
Yeah,
and it's even weirder when it's like one-on-one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like when you do normal shit, like go on a date or something, and it's like,
oh yeah, it's rough.
You have to, you know what I mean? Like it's a conscious effort for sure, but it's almost a superpower too when you have like the overactive brain. Because like I definitely get that. Because like even on stage, it's while I'm talking to you, I'm thinking about the next shit, and it's the same thing in real life. Sometimes like you'll get into a conversation and not even mean to go into autopilot, but it's like you're just thinking of some other shit, bro.
It could be it could be tiring too.
Yeah. Oh, it's
I mean,
exhausting.
and I get so much energy drain from this shit. But
Yeah. By the end of the day.
Dudes happen to just always be in motion and working on the multiple different things. It's like I definitely get that because there's a certain type of energy burst that comes with all those thoughts and feeling the need to act on it.
Yeah, and you were talking about your son, and I didn't want to bring like Schultz and Charlemagne were talking about how Seinfeld always says he's on the spectrum, and a lot of like big comedians, and he's like, bro, you're successful and rich. Doesn't matter, but it's still funny. I get what they mean. Like, no one cares when you're successful, famous, and rich, and you're talking about it. And because like you're Jerry Seinfeld, you're one of the goats, but he was saying he thinks he's on the spectrum with Asperger's and autism spectrum, and a lot of people I think in comedy are like that. It's crazy. And they were really, Howard Stern and Seinfeld are big into TM meditation, and I was looking into that because like they say like it helps them so much with stress and like daily like stress and shit and gaining energy, and because they get drained of their energy too. And they say they do it a few times a day, and they like swear by it.
Yeah, my wife's into meditation.
TM.
It's just I haven't done it, but like honestly, like that's the thing is I frazzle out, and like because of like the violence in my childhood, the only way that I got through it was like, like they say, life's a joke and death is the punchline. Like I just started making jokes, and I just started laughing at everything and making like the worst situations. I'll make a joke.
Comedy.
It's funny, except for maybe the person that you're married to, or the person you're in the room with, and like, I say shit that you shouldn't say, and it's funny, and I'll tell you a couple of them, and we'll all laugh. But somebody else will watch and be like, "What the fuck? Why would you fucking say that?" Like we should have had 3 kids. We miscarried on the first one, and we were in this hospital over here, and my wife was about to like get a DNC, and like I don't know how to deal with those situations, so I just deflect with comedy. And so the doctor's telling us this happened, my wife's all upset, and I just said, he says to us, he's like, it's nothing that you did, the kid just stopped growing. And I was like, damn, we kind of won the lottery here, huh? And he was like, what? And I was like, think about it, man, like we kind of won the lottery, because if this kid wouldn't even grow on his own, think about how lazy of a teenager he would have been. And it's funny. It's a perfectly timed joke at the worst possible time.
But to a normal person, they're like, this dude's a monster.
And the doctor's looking at me. My wife's like, what the fuck? And I'm just like, that's a funny joke. I was like, circle back on it. Like, especially you being in this business, like, you're going to laugh one day and be like, this one guy one time.
Have you seen Private Parts?
Yeah.
Have you seen Private Parts?
Yeah, for
it
sure.
reminds me of when his wife had a miscarriage and he went on radio talking about it, and she got mad at him.
Yeah, and like the thing is, like, people should talk about miscarriages because, man, like they are so common, but people don't talk about them. They're like this dark secret. It's like, everybody can make dead baby jokes, but like don't talk about miscarriages. It's like, I was like, hey man, it happens. It's a part of the deal. But like, that's just an example, man. Like I told you the one about the dog. Like recently I came home from work and my wife is like talking to our 2 neighbors, and like, again, I'm not good with people, so I just like try to hide in my seat. I was like, shit, people. And she's like, we saw you park the car, what are you doing? And so I get out of the car, I was like, hey everybody. And I could see that they're upset, and all I try to do in those situations is crack a joke to make people feel better in the moment, kind of like just take it away for a second. Not the best way for everybody, but the way I know how to do it. And it's just like, people have told me, like come back to me later and be like, hey man, that helped, but most people not, and so these 2, the couple next door, they were just like upset, and my wife's like, they lost their dog. And I was like, oh shit. I was like, maybe he's just playing poker with his buddies. And they just looked at me like, what the fuck? And so I was just like, fuck it, I'll just double down on this. And we live around the corner from a casino. I was like, have you guys checked the casino yet? And my wife is just like, what the fuck? What the fuck? And they just were like, and they walked away. And my wife's like, why would you say that? I was like, that's a perfectly timed joke. And she's like, yeah, but not a perfect joking situation. I was like, but when they find their dog, they're gonna laugh. They're gonna be like, that was funny. And then she goes, but what if they don't find their dog? And I was like, still a good joke though. And she's just like,
Pretty funny. Oh, if it was just lost, I thought it died. If it's just lost, that's hilarious.
they eventually found it.
That's
so
hilarious.
Like,
I thought they had to put it down or something.
Yeah.
With just one poker chip.
That's hilarious.
All right.
Um,
we are here. Well, primarily, it's hard. You're based out in Cali now.
Yep.
Right. So yeah, this was definitely a rare time to catch you back in Jersey.
It's good to be
But yeah, you want to talk about why you're back for a little bit?
Yeah, it's this week on Saturday we are releasing this Vans collection, NJ Skateshop times Vans, and it is inspired and dedicated to our hometown of Sayreville, New Jersey. The town got its name from the Sayre and Fisher brick company, and a lot of people don't know this, but it produced like over 6 billion bricks. It was the largest brick manufacturer in the States for, from the 1800s until 1970. And from Richmond, Virginia to Richmond, Maine, these bricks built everything. Like the first time the World Trade Center got bombed, they were pulling Sayre and Fisher bricks out. Like the Statue of Liberty base built with Sayre and Fisher bricks. Like
that's crazy.
The Empire State Building. Like these bricks have built everything. And as a skater, that sound of bricks is just very unique. The sound of wheels rolling is very unique, but goddamn, when it's on bricks, it's like everybody can relate to that. And our bricks from this tiny little 2-road town built every single rad brick skate spot from Richmond all the way up. So when you skate the Brooklyn banks, that's really the Jersey banks. We built that shit. And like the Afro banks in Philly and the old hospital banks in Boston, all with Sayre and Fisher bricks from Sayreville, New Jersey.
Wow.
And people don't know that story. And so for us to get the opportunity with Vans to tell that story and to let people know has been really special. So like there's 3 shoes, they're all brick embossed, and then there's like a photo book that's just all brick East Coast skate photos. And then on the same day the shoe releases on the 20th, RB Umali made like an insane 7-minute edit for Thrasher that starts with Steve Caballero from Future Primitive and ends with Dick Rizzo from Quasi's Mother video.
Damn.
And covers 30 years of East Coast brick skateboarding. And it's insane. It starts with the Artifacts track, Brick City Kids, and it just goes. And I don't know, man. I'm just really proud that we were given the opportunity, and my partner Steve Leonardo like really drove this thing home.
Shout out Steve,
Love
man.
Steve.
Love
And,
Steve.
Like just, I don't know. It's dope, man, because it's like any skate crew that you meet anywhere feels that their scene is the most important scene in the world, and they're not wrong because it's their scene, and it's like you can go to Madagascar, you can go to Paris, like that, they feel like their scene is the shit. And, we used to skate a food town on Route 9 next to a porno theater, next to a McDonald's. And
Everything you need.
Dude, I remember us like making fun of people coming out of the porno theater when they were going to watch When Harry Ate Sally. And like, that was our crew, like our buddy Troy Jankowski and like so many other heads that like came out of that area. Shannon McFadden, rest in peace. And like, we had a crew, and like our little Sayreville crew was inspired by those bricks. And here we are, 30 odd years later, 18 years as NJ, like getting a chance to tell the Sayreville skate story. So it really means a lot to us, and like I can't like thank the people at Vans for giving us the opportunity. It's huge.
Thank you, Vans. Thank you, dude, for fucking putting on though, because like I think especially growing up skating in Jersey, it was like it's cool to have a colorway that like, well, number one is officially like stamped like NJ, this is our shit, but definitely when you think Jersey, it's like this shoe kind of, it's everything, like for sure. Like
For sure.
I think the color, what it's based on with the brick, all that, it's like you guys hit the nail on the head for sure, man. Like, because it's funny you talked about the sound of the brick, because it's funny how your brain works. If you're wired that way, it's like when I looked at it, I heard it too.
Yeah,
It's
man,
super
like,
dope.
I've got a
like,
recording of like 7 minutes of only like wheels on bricks. It's like white noise. It's like, it's beautiful.
Yeah, man. I even like thought about times I've slammed on brick too. Like,
Yeah.
like all the memories there, they come back, dude. And I'm super fucking stoked on this. And this will be available March 20th, you said, right?
Yeah, and then we've got 2 T-shirts that we're doing. One is T. Eric Monroe, who, like I said, gave me my start.
Shout out T-Dot.
It's a Redman T-shirt at this pizzeria. We love it. And little known fact, Redman and his partner Tariq own a skate shop. Redman is a skate shop owner in Staten Island. It's called Richmond Hood Company, and they blessed us with using the photo, and it's dope, man. So obviously nobody represents Brick City more than Redman, so it was real dope to have that. And then there's another one that's a photo from the 80s. It's like a Felix Arguez, another Jersey legend, skating the Brooklyn banks, and T. Eric Monroe is actually off to the side in that photo.
Oh,
and
shit.
One of the most legendary designers, Ali Asha, his mom took it. It's just like a mom snapshot, and it's just so ill. It's like a vertical photo of the Brooklyn banks and just a ton of kids. I think there's one kid sitting on the bridge, and then we just wrote underneath it, "We built this city."
Damn.
Because Jersey built all that shit.
Dude, fuck yeah, man.
Yeah.
All right.
I always say, man, it's like, dude, if we don't rep Jersey hard, literally nobody's going to back Jersey. So
Nobody.
it's our job to over rep it.
Yeah, and the fact that I hate that the Jets and the Giants both play and practice in Jersey, yet we don't have a team.
I don't even talk about the basketball team anymore. People are like, "Hey, what do you think?" I was like, "I never even heard of them."
Yeah.
I was like, dude, you want to talk about Steph Marbury and Sam Cassell and Jason Kidd? I'll talk to you, but when they moved, I never heard of them again.
Nope. All right, guys. Yeah, brother. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, yeah. By the way, being that we saw it was fitting, we are sponsored by Fleshlight. Chris wrote in porn and worked in porn, so not on screen, I don't think, but
home pornography.
Hell yeah. So yeah.
Is this your butthole?
We get. No, that's not the butthole. I think it's a regular one.
Is it a coffee mug?
Can you use the coffee mug now?
I'm gonna use it as a coffee mug.
Use it as a vase. Get a bouquet of roses. Just stick it at the bottom. Hell yeah.
Thank you guys.
So yeah, we give that to all our guests, man.
I'm away from my wife for a week. So I miss Jack. You got lube? Yeah, that's good. That's tight. I appreciate it.
But this has been the Keep It Basement podcast. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Having us once again. March 20th, 3 shoes dropping, Half Cab, the Gilbert Crockett High, and the Van Slip. Get yours before they sell out right away. And it's been Keep It Basement. Alex Nicholas, Tom Zappia, Mike Sweeney, and thank you again, Chris Nieratko, man.
Yeah.
Catch you guys later.
I appreciate it.
Boom.
How was that? Did we win?
Sick.